When a president talks about foreign policy, a president has to be clear. And this talk about hypotheticals, I think, is what's gotten us in trouble. Here's what I would do on nuclear weapons. I wouldn't, as an American president, use nuclear weapons first. However, you can never take the military option off the table. The key is that in our foreign policy today, this administration has used the military option, preemption. It should be diplomacy first, negotiation. Build international support for our goals. Find ways that America can get allies in our fight against terrorism, against nuclear proliferation. We should have a treaty on fissionable material, loose nuclear weapons. That's even more dangerous today than nuclear weapons.
Let me turn now to the second question I raised at the top of the question about Senator Clinton. And outgoing White House counselor Karl Rove opined on that this week. He was on Rush Limbaugh. Here's what he had to say.
There is no front runner who has entered the primary season with negatives as high as she has in the history of modern polling. She's going into the general election with, depending on what poll you look at, in the high 40s on the negative side and just below that on the positive side. And there's nobody who's ever won the presidency who started out in that kind of position.
Now, Senator Obama, I know you'll agree with Karl Rove on just about anything.
I am.
But the Associated Press this week wrote an article. They talked to 40 Democratic activists and office holders across the country. It led to this series of headlines across the country. Democrats worry Clinton may weigh down lesser candidates. Democrats worry Clinton may hurt the rest of the ticket. Are they right to be worried?
You know, I think Senator Clinton and all the candidates up here are capable, and whoever wins the general election, I believe, who wins the primary, I believe, is going to win the general election. But I think there's something bigger at stake here. We all agree that the last 6 years have been disastrous for America, both at home and abroad. But the fact is that the big challenges we face, whether it's health care or a bold energy strategy or schools that aren't producing young people that can compete on the global stage, those are problems that predate the Bush administration. They're not just Republican problems, they're Democratic problems and American problems. And I think a winning strategy is not crafted by a political calculus that divides the country into red states and blue states. So what I've been trying to express in my campaign is that if you believe that part of the problem is the failed politics of Washington and the conventional thinking in Washington, if you're tired of the backbiting and the scorekeeping and the special interest-driven politics of Washington, if you want somebody who can bring the country together around a common purpose and rally us around a common destiny, then I'm your guy.
But when you say that, are you saying that Senator Clinton is part of the failed politics of Washington or not?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that we're going to need somebody who can break out of the political patterns that we've been in over the last 20 years. And part of that is the notion that half the country is on one side, the other half's on the other. You maybe have a few people in Iowa or a few people in Ohio and Florida who we're all battling over, and afterwards we can't govern. And what I'm interested in is not only winning the election, but also providing relief to people who don't have health care, making sure that we're tackling climate change in a serious way. And I think that's going to require building a new majority, getting new people involved in the process, and I wouldn't be running if I didn't believe that I was the person best equipped to do that.
So the answer is yes?
The answer is I would not be running if I did not believe that I was the best person to do this.
Well, let me just say, I have a slightly different view. Here's what I believe. I think we were out of power in the Congress for 13 years. In November of 2006, the Democrats took over the Congress again. I think there was a reason for that, because the Democrats in November of 2006 stood for change. America wants change in the most serious way. And if we become the party of status quo in 2008, that's a loser.
Well, that is the fundamental question, though.
But let me finish. If we maintain the momentum of change, yes, we will win again in 2008. I think that's the question. And the real question for Democratic caucus goers and voters across this country is who's most likely to bring about change. Here's what I believe. I don't believe you can change this country without taking on very entrenched interests in Washington, including lobbyists that stand between us and the change that America needs. And I don't believe you can do it by sitting at a table, negotiating with them, and trying to bring them together. These people will never give away their power voluntarily. We have to take their power away from them. This is what I've been doing my whole life, and that's why I believe I am the candidate who can bring change to the country.
And you're saying that Senator Clinton is not?
Listen, Senator Clinton, both as First Lady and as a United States Senator, has done a terrific job. She's been in Washington a long time. I've asked, Senator, I've never taken money from Washington lobbyists. Senator Obama's not taking it in this campaign. I applaud him for that. And I've said, why don't we all make an absolutely clear statement that we are the Democratic Party, we're the party of the people. We are not the party of Washington insiders, and we can say it clearly and unequivocally by saying we will never take another dime from a Washington lobbyist. I've asked the other candidates to join me in that, and at least until now, Senator Clinton's not done it.
Senator Clinton, will you do it?
Well, I don't think Karl Rove's going to endorse me. That becomes more and more obvious, but I find it interesting he's so obsessed with me. And I think the reason is because we know how to win. I mean, you know, I have been fighting against these people for longer than anybody else up here. I've taken them on, and we've beaten them. And I'm very excited about my campaign. I had 18 wonderful years in Arkansas. I'll be there tomorrow where the governor will be endorsing me. I've had wonderful experiences in upstate New York where many of the people who voted for me had never voted for a Democrat before. And, you know, the idea that you're going to escape the Republican attack machine and not have high negatives by the time they're through with you, I think, is just missing what's been going on in American politics for the last 20 years. And the reason why we're going to win is because we have a better vision for America. We know how to bring about change, and I know how to beat them. So, yes, they're going to be driving up negatives and making all these comments. Doesn't matter to me a bit. What's important is what's happening in the lives of the American people, and the kind of change I'm interested in is how we help more Americans get to the American dream, and that means universal health care. That means new jobs for the middle class with rising incomes. It means what I have fought for more than 35 years, and I am proud of my campaign, and it's getting better every single day.
Clinton,
so I'm looking forward to going up against whoever the Republicans nominate.
How about this point, though, that Senator Edwards raises? He says the fact that you're taking money from lobbyists symbolizes that you're part of the status quo, part of the failed politics of Washington.
Well, George, I believe we have to change Washington. I've stood up against the special interests. I've taken them on. You know, I took them on health care. I took them on and voted against a lot of their special interest legislation, like class action reform, which is just really another way of lining the pockets of big business. I've taken them on so many different fronts. But there's this artificial distinction that people are trying to make. Don't take money from lobbyists, but take money from the people who employ and hire lobbyists and give them their marching orders. Those are the people that are really going to be pushing back. I think we can do a much better job if we say we've got to move toward public financing, get the money out of American politics, because it's the people who employ the lobbyists who are behind all the money in American politics. So I think what we need to do is go after a better agenda of reform.
Back at you.